Man. If you were lucky enough to follow those lyrics, that song just does something to me. It's good. Good stuff. Thank you, you guys. More of the good stuff. Let's bring it on, hey? I'm Jeff. Really happy to have you here joining us this morning, whether it's in person or through our live stream. I want to tell you about something that's coming up next weekend. We're starting a new series, and I thought you might want to know a little bit about it. It was a 2014 little nightclub in Philly. A guy named Hannibal Buress. Maybe you've heard of him, a comedian. Stands up and in his monologue, he does a bit about Bill Cosby. It's become a famous bit, but he ranted. He's telling jokes, but in a humorous way. He was poking fun at this man and all the accusations of rape that no one was taking seriously. Without going into the whole thing and all that he said, someone was videotaping that bit, and it went out, and that thing caught fire, viral fire. People around the world looking at this thing going, wait a second, something's not right there. Now, in hindsight, some have said that was all it took. It was like a spark landing on a pile of tinder, culturally. But the world, it was like they woke up to some of the insanity of the sexual allegations that were just running and not having consequence. They say that viral video was one of the sparks that gave this fledgling Me Too hashtag clout and leverage that launched it into a worldwide cultural phenomenon and movement that was needed for its time. Now, a comedian. This would not be the first time a comedian has gotten up and said things, blending humor with social commentary, that while everyone is laughing, there was a sense of, wait a second, a sense of curiosity, a sense of cognitive dissonance that created something. It jerked people to go, what is going on here anyways? Well, lately, the comics have been speaking out a lot on a lot of different things. And if you've been paying attention to much of it, it's creating a stir. And I think, personally, that some of the stuff that they're saying has some deep relevance to our spiritual journey. And stuff that might really serve us well to just pay close attention to. So for 3 weeks, we're going to go into some of the stuff that they're exploring, the themes that they're talking about. Whether you'll find them funny or you'll find them disturbing, one way or another, I think you're going to see the gravity and the relevance to your own spiritual journey in the conversation. So for 3 weeks, it's a series called Let the Comics Speak. You won't want to miss it. Join us. It starts next week. Vince is kicking it off. Trevor, I will invite you. And while you're coming up, Trevor, I just want to say today we're launching our New to Friends orientation right after the service. So for those that might be with here in the service or are listening to us but maybe want to be a part of this and want to come ripping down and be a part of it here, we're doing it in the auditorium right afterwards. An opportunity for anyone who's new to Friends Church, wants to find more about us. We want to find out a little bit more about you too and your journey and help you taking the next step to just kind of feeling like home. This is home. So anyways, Trevor, take it away.
You know, I'm not funny. So, let the comic speak. So you're like, that's not me. That's someone else is obviously coming up afterwards who's going to give you. But I do remember a good quote a friend shared with me. You don't have to be funny to have a sense of humor. So that's really helped me. So especially during these times with funds and mass. I don't know, the trick-or-treaters last night, they were out in force. I hope they were in your neighborhood too. It was kind of awesome to see little people running around. And I guess they were all Halloweened up, so they had their masks on. So it felt really good. As we come in, this is our time that we give back to Friends Church and support this wonderful organization. We had a very funny conversation with a group of friends on Friday. Relationships are hard. We didn't have a punchline for it. That's what we came up with. It's like, wow, this takes work. Wow. So as we come to Friends Church, the spiritual gym, this workout, that's part of what we're here for, is to get a little bit better. I was running with my friend the other day, and he's like, yeah, this is an easy run. And I thought, you SOB. Because I was sweating, right? Like, he was, this is lovely. I'm like, if we do another hill. Thanks, Alessandra. You know those people, eh? Those people who are just a little bit better shape than you. But that's what it looks like, right? The reason we come is we can get into just a little bit better shape. So those hard parts of the relationship, we're maybe not the sticky point anymore. And that's not always easy to do. So thank you guys for supporting a really wonderful cause. Have a great day today. Remember all the snow on the ground that just a couple weeks ago I thought, it's going to be here forever. It's gone. So there is hope for sure. And Alessandra and Dave have one more song. Thanks, guys. Play it out.
I want us to just take a moment right now to just breathe, can we? Just calm ourselves. Whether you're here, if you're here in the auditorium, it's easier to do. Maybe you're at home, in your bedroom watching, or wherever you are. Just take a moment to just suck in some oxygen and just lower the revs. Just get yourself in a posture of just being able to just be receptive. This past summer, I gave a talk called The Long Game. It was talking about two practices that I personally believe keep us on the spiritual journey, intentionally growing and inspiring growth in our lives for the long haul. Because I watch a lot of people, they start this thing and then they eject. I talk to people, I run into them in the stores every now and then, and I remember them from a season in their lives, and I'll ask them, are you engaged? Is the spiritual journey still a thing for you? And they're like, they got off. What keeps you in the game? So I did this message, and I talked about the power of being able to take your attention, turn it off yourself onto others. It was a other-centric way of being. I think more than anything that we do, that is a powerful, powerful centering practice that helps you, reminds us of keeping the point. The main thing, the main reason we're here. There's something beautiful about being able to give back, give to others, and not just focus in a self-centered way. But the second point that I spoke of in this message was that, and it's almost like the paradox of this point. It's the opposite of being true to who you are. So the first practice was take your eyes off yourself to focus on others. This second point was understand who you are and be true to it. And when you can be true to yourself, life takes on a whole nother dimension and purpose and meaning and fulfillment. But I remember being frustrated as I was doing that message. It was like there was just so much that could be talked about, and I just feel like I didn't do it justice. Which brings me back to this morning now in this final message of this foundational series, because I think, to be honest, we hear so many people in our culture saying you need to be true to yourself. From Lady Gaga to Tony Robbins to the Dalai Lama. Like, it doesn't matter what your persuasion or corner of your world or culture you seem to be a part of. The messages are coming in fast and furious. Learn to be true to yourself. And yet, from my perspective, I watch so many people really not even knowing what that means. And it's frustrating. I thought, you know what, I want to take another run at that thing. Yeah. I think most people would say, well, I am being true to myself. You know, hey, who am I to judge? But I know I thought the exact same thing. I thought I'm being true to myself. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, Jeff, are you living true to who you are, to your core values? I would have said, oh yeah, for sure. But then I would have these epiphanies or these moments where all of a sudden I'm going, wait, what the heck, Jeff? It was about 20 years ago, actually. I remember seeing a flyer that came in the mail from Nevada Bob's, one of my favorite stores in the world, a golf store. And I opened up that flyer. It was like Christmas getting a flyer like that in the mail. They're advertising a big sale. I flip it open, and right there, they're advertising this driver. It's one of the biggest clubs in your golf bag if you're not a golfer, and it's what you often will tee off on a par 4. You'll use it. It'll get you the biggest. Anyways, I'm looking at it, and here they got the driver that I've been looking at in the magazines. I've been drooling over. I've been thinking about for a long time. It's on sale. I was just like, someone speaking to me about this? We were still pretty young. Kathy and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and so the golf budget was pretty tight. But man, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, oh, look at the deal. Oh. So, I don't know even how it happens, but coincidence, whatever, there I am. Within a short amount of time, driving right in front of Nevada Bob's. I'm like, how does this happen? Just wait, the sale's on. This is unreal. And I've got a little bit of time to spend. So I wheel into that parking lot, and I just think, you know what? They probably don't even have any left, especially the specific model that I'm looking for. I walk in, and sure enough, there it is. I'm looking at all the different formations of this one club, the different shaft stiffnesses and the different grips, the launch angles. And I'm just like, I wonder if they would have my configuration. Probably don't. Sure enough. I'm just like, God, if you're telling me something, I am listening. I grabbed that club. I thought, maybe I'll just go in and just test it out. They got a big screen that you can hit into. It tells you how far you're hitting, your launch angles, all that stuff. And I start swinging that club. I'm just like, oh, I swear I can't miss with this thing. And I'm hitting it, and I'm kind of pacing around. I look at the price of it. I go, oh, that is still pretty pricey. I set it down. I walk around. I come pick it up again. And I make my way to the front till. And I go, this is a sign. This is the time. This is your move, Jeff. I get up to the till, and the lady grabs the club. She starts ringing it in, and I'm looking at the total. And with tax, it kind of spits it out. And it's like these moments that you can have. I had one in that moment where I'm thinking about the amount that I'm going to spend, and all of a sudden I'm transported back to a conversation that I had with my wife, Kathy. It was maybe a few weeks prior to that. It was birthday season, and she was planning a party for our oldest son, Jaden. And she said, here's what I'm thinking we should do. We should go to this place. It's all done up. The kids can play, a bonkers environment, that kind of thing. And the kids can play, and we can invite some of our friends, and then they'll come in, we'll eat. I was thinking about doing that, and then I was thinking about this for presents. And I remember as she's talking, I'm like going, Kath, how much is this going to cost? And she says, well, it costs this much, per kid, and then the meal would be this much. And I said, well, and how much for the gifts are you thinking? She goes, well, I think we could spend around this much. So I'm doing the math. And I remember looking at her and saying, Kath, that's a little steep, isn't it? Does that mean things are a little tight? There was no fight. She just looked at me. She was like, yeah, you know what? Okay, let's back this off. And so right there, she said, how about we do this instead? We cut down the number of kids coming. I know he had made up this list, but if we tell him 6 kids, not that many, and blah, blah, blah. She does it all. She says, how does this sound? And I said, yeah, that works. Let's do that. So there I am standing in the middle of Nevada Bob's, right at the till, and she's cranking out this number. And just the sharp memory of that conversation floats into my head. And I've already reached for my wallet. I've already got my credit card ready. And it is like a knife through my gut. Just like someone just came in and I'm looking at the woman, I'm thinking about the amount of money, the number of times that party that I'm going to spend on this club, of which I already have another one in my bag. And I have this sick feeling like you don't have enough money to throw the party for your kid in that way, but you can find this kind of money, Jarvis? I didn't really even have any language in that moment for what the conflict, the sick feeling. I just knew something was a little out of whack with that picture. Do you know the feeling I'm talking about? We all kind of hit these moments where we do something and then whether it's in the moment or after the moment, we go, what was I thinking? Later you realize, that probably wasn't worth it. You got that promotion at the expense of perhaps now time that you would have spent otherwise with your family. Now you're traveling. Now the demands are higher. You can't be at home like you once were. Maybe you get involved in a relationship that gives you this sense of security. Maybe there's this blanket of financial provision or just someone to do life with. But that relationship has thrown other parts of your world upside down. There's a part of you, perhaps, that, if you're really honest, is going dead. Whether it's seeing some kind of mistreatment directly, maybe it's indirectly. Maybe you take a lavish vacation, or you took on a massive renovation, and now you're forced to say no to other things that you just didn't realize you would end up saying no to. And now you're going, I wanted that, but I didn't want that. I need this, but I'm not sure that I like the price tag of that thing and what it's requiring me to have to say no to over here. Some people struggle to be true to themselves in different ways. They're not so much concerned about making themselves happy. It's different. They're maybe trying to make other people happy. They're trying to please. They're trying to impress. And so in the process of trying to make people happy in their lives, they end up suppressing their own needs and desires. They'll hide their fears and the things that they don't like because they don't want to upset someone else. They'll deny their own pursuits, their own achievement even to the point where some will jeopardize their own health or their finances or career or relationships just to get the thumbs up from someone in their life. Oh, this happens in all kinds of different ways and shapes. Losing themselves to make someone else happy. You see, you can struggle to be yourself in a myriad of ways. This summer I finished that message a little frustrated because I just feel like I took a little run at the challenge of being true to ourselves. And I remember partway in I said, this is such a big area and it affects so many parts of our lives that we really need to do a workshop on this. That's what I said. If you were there, maybe you remember me. I was saying, this needs time. We need space. We need time to really soak in this thing and give this the opportunity it needs to see the ways that we may not be being true to ourselves and the consequences of it. Anyways, I made that comment, finished the message. I walk off the stage, and a guy comes walking up to me. He's like, hi, Jeff, I want to help. Exactly what you're talking about is something I do. I said, and you are? He's like, oh, I'm Christopher. I said, oh, well, nice to meet you, Christopher. You've been coming out for a while? He's like, well, yeah, I have been. Anyways, he went into it. And so I started spending time with him, learning what kind of context he does this in. Found out that he does this for a living. He's a real coach for people who are wanting to achieve in their lives, in their businesses specifically. And so started chatting with him more and more. I went, wow, there is something here, man, that I think you could help us with. And so anyways, so much so that I went, I'm going to be doing a message soon. I want you to come and talk about this. And so we started planning a bunch of different stuff. Anyways, he was going to be joining me this morning. He texted me yesterday and said, I am not feeling well. I said, oh, this is no day to have like the sniffles, buddy. And he's like, I know. He says, I'm not sure that this has anything to do with the COVID, but I'm feeling all these symptoms. I said, okay, tell you what, let's shift to plan B. So what we did is we got on Zoom yesterday and we did an interview. And I asked him the same questions that I would have been asking him here this morning live. And we recorded it all. And so I'm going to do something I've never done, is I'm going to play our little interview up here so that you can see, and then I'm going to join you right after that, all right? It's, you know, one thing, if you've ever spoken in public and ever had yourself recorded, it is very difficult to go back and listen to yourself, much less watch yourself. So I found that out yesterday. So I'm just like, oh no. Anyways, this will be my own little misery. But you guys can maybe enjoy it with a little less annoyance. Go ahead. Let's roll this. Christopher Lawrence, folks.
Thank you for joining me today. I know you're not feeling well. I so appreciate you being willing to do this anyways.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I want to be here. I'm just sorry that I can't be there tomorrow with the whole group.
It's worth not taking the risk. Really happy, though, that we could do this. I know there's people that are watching right now going, I don't think I recognize this guy. And rightfully so. You haven't been attending Friends Church that long, have you? Like, how long has it been?
Yeah, so literally 3 Sundays before COVID hit, I attended my first Friends Church meeting and participated online and came right back in when we started doing the in-person stuff.
So you've been with us maybe about seven and a half months?
Yeah, 7 months.
But actually we haven't seen your face because you've been watching our live stream for a good chunk of that.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I know you're passionate about this topic of core values. And and I've gotten to know a little bit more about you since you first introduced yourself. So I know a little bit more of your story, but I know specifically that some of the passion of living true to yourself comes from your own experience, not living true to yourself way back. And I'd like you to maybe go back, if you wouldn't mind, and just tell a little bit about that story. What was going on in your life when you didn't feel like you were honoring your own values?
Yeah, I was working in a company that I did extremely well at. I loved it. I was working. I didn't love it. That was the problem. I was working in oil and gas. I was making a lot of really, really good money, but I was not happy. I was putting on weight. I was put on medication. I was, and necessarily I needed it, and all of this stuff, and spending money to make myself feel better. It was just
Was the job just not, that it was just not enjoyable, or how did you know it was not true to you?
I felt, and this will sound familiar, but I felt that it was, while I was doing well, it felt soul sucking, and I felt like there was different things that I wanted to do, but I didn't know what they were. Like, I was in such a dark place. I didn't even know how to get myself out of it. And I was I blamed everybody else. And then after you kind of go through the whole gambit, you kind of have to look in the mirror.
I totally know what you mean. We've talked a lot about what it can feel like when we're not living true to our values. Some of the emotional consequences of these, when you say I was in a dark place, I know exactly, mine looks different than yours did, but the emotions are the same. Can we just chat a little bit about some true telltale emotional signals that maybe you're not being true to who you are?
Yeah. If you aren't in line with what your values are and living a values-based life, making values-based decisions, you will experience feelings of guilt. Like, guilt is a sure sign that you've compromised a value somewhere. Resentment, shame, self-hatred, regret.
Can you, even going back to your story, can you maybe unpack, was there one of these kinds of emotions that were going on in you, and why? Why would those pop up inside of you?
Yeah, I think the one that I would choose is, there's many that I would choose, but the one that I'll choose for today is resentment, the feeling of resentment. I had a lot of resentment towards the organization that I worked for. And what I understand now, the reason why is because it was, they were operating in a certain way that is economically driven, because this is what companies do. And I'm operating in a certain way that is economically driven, but it doesn't feel true to me. So I ended, making good money, but I spent a lot of money on stuff I didn't need and didn't even want, and got myself into a lot of trouble with that kind of stuff.
Why were you doing that? Why were you spending money in that season of your life, do you think?
Yeah, I think there were two reasons. One, it was what the other people around me did that had success, in quotation, success. So I was modeling successful behavior. That was the first reason. And the second reason was it made me feel better for about 3 seconds. Really what it did was it helped me numb out.
Yeah. So you're unhappy with kind of your place in life, and then all of a sudden you start doing these other things to maybe compensate or try to make you feel better about yourself, doing what you're doing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, 100%. And everything, Jeff, everything from what I chose to eat to what I to what I bought, to how I socialized, who I socialized with, all of that. And they're all values decisions.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I know there have been times in my life when I wasn't living true to my own values, deeper values, and is my pleasing nature, and I would try to impress or do things whether it was things I couldn't even afford to do, or whether it was money or time, I would do them in hopes of pleasing or impressing someone. And then right afterwards, I would feel so resentful toward them because I'm thinking, I can't afford this time. I've just said no to my family to be here to make you happy. I'd be so angry at them. And it's funny, I don't think they had any clue that they were even part of that. Like, they would never have wanted me to do something that crossed my own values. They probably didn't even know what was going on. But I was so angry at times with them, you know. Then, of course, I would come home and hate myself for doing what I did, you know, like, yeah.
That's
so when you
familiar.
talk about that self-hatred, you know, maybe looking in the mirror, getting on the scale and going, what the hell am I doing?
Sacrificing time for something that you don't. You know, it's like, well, I'm doing this for you because I value you and what it's going to do for you, but it's actually coming at a cost.
So you made changes. Like, when did that happen, and what caused you to make the change?
Yeah, well, actually, I ended up off work for 4 months. For me, you know, in such a strange way, it was a blessing, but an unfortunate blessing. I had three people die in my life, all within a 10-day period, which also happened to be the week of my birthday. And one was a suicide, and 2 were family members, 2 were not suicides. And I'll tell you, that shakes you to the core. So I ended up off work, and in that time, you really start to reflect on what's important.
Oh, so did it just become obvious to you that you were not living according to your values, or did someone teach you that? Did you read something and it's like, oh, that might be what's going on here? Like, how did it come about?
I spent a lot of time reading and studying, but I think it was a conglomeration of different pieces. Although if somebody had come out and said to me, hey bud, you have a value system that is broken. Like, do you even know what you value? I think it would have sped the whole process up a little bit.
So you didn't have someone come along and just say, hey, look, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what you got to do. It wasn't like that.
Yeah. No, and I wish that they did. It would have sped it up, but it really kind of took a village of people and things and education, self-education, as well as education from others.
Yeah. And maybe that's why you believe in helping people with this very thing. Now, I don't know. I can only imagine that that's part of your motivation.
It 100% is part of my motivation. And it's not, you know, I think the mistake here is that we only use values-based decision making for really big stuff, but actually it could be used for anything and everything in your life. What's on your plate that you're eating, what you choose to buy, who you spend your time with, and how you spend that time together.
I mean, you begin to realize this can affect literally every decision in your life if you're really on top of it, or you're aware of what are the things that truly reflect who I am.
100%.
You're teaching a course coming up here, which I'm so excited about. You came out and said, hey, look, I teach a course on this. Why don't you let me teach this at Friends Church? I can help some people. I was like, are you kidding me? This is too great to be true. This is awesome. I would like to just talk about that for a second at a high level. Obviously, you're going to unpack it in a much more detailed level in the course for those that sign up.
Yeah.
But at a high level, how is it that you help people identify their own core values?
Yeah. Jeff, the first thing is that we have to understand that there's a structure to a value. A value is not just a word like honesty or family. That is not detailed enough for us to use it. It's not structured enough for us to use it in a tactical way. So we actually understand the structure of a value. We use scenarios to understand what your values are. And we actually learn how to make values-based decisions by the end of the workshop.
It was interesting. You have told me that there's a number of different approaches that you do within the workshop. And I don't want to give it, you don't need you to go into elaborate detail, but can you just talk about that a little bit? Like the different ways that you uncover people's values.
Yes, 100%. So we actually use 4 scenarios that we take people through. One is that we look at a peak state in your life, so a time when everything was flowing well, because we believe in those times your values are being fully expressed or nearly fully expressed.
Yeah.
We look at a time where your values are suppressed, or you feel like you have no flow in your life. It's a garbage time in your life.
Like you're just stressed out, or you're experiencing some shame or whatever. Or
we believe that your values might be suppressed in that scenario.
Yeah.
We look at your time and money spending habits.
So, this was really interesting to me. Like even being able to go to your credit card statement and go, hey, don't tell me what you value. Let's just see what you spend your money on. And then we'll see really what you value. Is that kind of, that's
100%, and time too. How you spend it.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. So it's kind of like uncovering all these different parts of our lives and how, the good scenarios when we'd say, man, things were so good, the bad situations in our life, what was going on there, kind of pulling that all apart, looking how you spend your money, how you spend your time. And then kind of as you go through that process, you begin to kind of see patterns.
Yeah, you see patterns and things start to become really obvious for you. So it starts to become obvious that, it's like, geez, like there's, it's like I never realized how much I value having maybe time with my coworkers where we're actually brainstorming rather than just working or talking in a meeting, which sometimes is, maybe not as productive for that person. Or
so like really nuanced things versus like a word like honesty. I value honesty. That's a core value, whatever. No, it's actually very nuanced picture.
And what kind of honesty? When is that? How do you express honesty? And when is it not applied?
Wow.
When would it be a violation of your values to be honest, as an example?
So really you get to the point where you have such a clear picture of the kinds of scenarios and decisions that could come up that your values should be influencing in or whatever, and you're aware enough to make healthy decisions versus unhealthy.
Yeah, 100%.
This is so exciting. Tell me something. As you've helped people through this process, how has it changed their lives? Or like, have you watched some exciting things happen?
Yeah, totally. One of the key things that happens, Jeff, is that the decision making starts to get a lot clearer, and our confidence in our ability to trust our own decision making gets a lot clearer. So like if you ever sit there and second guess or you waffle a little bit about decisions you're making, it's probably because, or sometimes, not always, it's because we're torn between ourselves and sometimes just ourselves, but also ourselves are society, or ourselves are our parents, or ourselves are our kids.
Yeah.
And so when you start to make decisions based off your values, your confidence about those decisions goes way up. And as they need to change, you check in with your values so you can change with ease rather than struggling with that kind of change.
I love that. I know you shared a quote with me this past week that I've been just sitting with. In fact, I sent it out as in our blurb for the message this past week. And I just keep coming back to it. Ayn Rand, she says you have no choice. You need a philosophy. It's just whether you're going to be deliberate about building the philosophy, or you're just going to subconsciously let it form in your head, in which case it can be very disorganized and very random and very, well, she calls it a mongrel philosophy. One thing as we've chatted, I see inside of you this passion to be able to help people build a more structured, very deliberate philosophy. How has it changed your life?
Yeah, in all honesty, Jeff, if I could go right back to the beginning of where we started the interview, so certainly I started making better health choices, but I started hearing my own voice a little bit more versus kind of the voice of the gremlins or the voice of, people from past or that kind of thing. So I lost weight. I was able to get out from under a bunch of financial burden. All of my financial decisions are values-based now. I'm very rarely unconscious about my financial choices. So that gives me such a sense of self-pride, but a huge sense of confidence and a sense of accomplishment.
I just as you speak, I can only imagine the excitement that starts to surface when the decisions we used to that leave us with regret or resentment or shame or whatever, all of a sudden turn into decisions that we're looking back and going, oh, I'm proud of my choices today. I live true to, yes, and look I'm getting what I really want out of life, or I'm becoming the kind of person I want to be.
Yes.
I can only imagine how exciting it must be helping people live out this kind of value-based decision life,
It's so cool when someone comes back and says to you, I made a choice that wasn't easy, but I'm proud of my decision.
Yeah, I love that.
That is that's a goosebump moment,
Yeah. I'm so thrilled that you have graciously offered to teach this course for Friends Church. And you've kind of modified it. It normally would be over numerous days, but we've cut it down, and it's going to be happening soon. Why don't you give us the details on when it is and what it's going to look like?
Yeah, so we're going to take 2 Sundays. So thank you for allowing me to do this, because when I came to Friends Church, I really wanted to contribute. It wasn't just about receiving. This was really important. It's in line with my values. I wanted to contribute to a community, right? So values-based decisions. So we're going to do this over 2 Sundays. It's November 22nd and 29th consecutively. So the 22nd, then the 29th, not the 29th before the 22nd, from 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. on both days. So it's 2.5 hours long. We'll take lots of breaks. It's going to be in the auditorium. So lots of good social distancing will be taking place so we can do this and have an in-person workshop. And I think, Jeff, you've got it on the website for folks to sign up to.
Yes.
Just go to the events and look for the core values workshop.
Right. They can go either to our website or they can go to our app and just look up the core values workshop, value-based decision, where I forget what we called that, but it's values. Anyways, get signed up, and we're not even charging for this. We should be. This should be worth a lot of money. Thank you for making this available so that no one has to miss out. Christopher, thank you for taking time. I know you're not feeling well. I wish you a speedy recovery, and I'll look forward to seeing you hopefully soon on a Sunday, but we'll be chatting in the meantime. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Christopher.
Yeah. So Christopher, besides me just being mildly annoyed by looking at myself for that long, that was painful. Now I know what you guys go through every week, all right? So this is a big thing, and I'm so proud, even as I've thought about different people in our community and the choices that I've watched some of you make in the middle of very turbulent times, how you've had to wrestle with what really you value. I've watched others who have been trying hard to do that. I've watched others who right now are living out the painful consequences of times when they weren't on their game and are now living out a life that really they didn't want. It just kind of happened. And it's for everyone that might fall into those patterns, or that might find yourself just going, I don't know if all the decisions I'm making really are the best for me. And I don't know if I've developed a philosophy, a way of being in the world that where I can make choices that are truly reflective of what I want. You just haven't done the work. You need to get signed up. Sign up for this. This is coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to do that. May we all be the kind of people who week in and week out are vigilant about asking this question, is what I'm about to do here, is this reflective of who I am, who I want to be? May we live with that kind of intentionality. That's our prayer for you today. I'm going to just say a prayer and we'll close. God, thank you. Thank you for the beauty of this journey and the challenge and the responsibility of it. Each of us has. No one's making these decisions for us, or should be. I pray, God, for a new illumination for every person here listening to this message, that they might be open to maybe parts of our lives that are incongruent with who we really are. And may you lead us to this place where we're willing to change, to look at it honestly and make healthy change that brings about something beautiful. I pray this in your name. Amen. Right on. Well, thank you for being here this morning. Again, we're going to launch New to Friends here shortly at about noon. I hope that you have a great week. Get out there and enjoy the beautiful weather we got around the corner, or that, well, we'll have for a couple days anyways.